You guys want to see what I did to create this custom list to add destinations with a custom background. Stay tuned. I'm going to open up a new project, single view project. We're going to call this my table view example. Okay. I'm going to keep core data checked because I plan on using core data for my list, and I'm just going to put this anywhere. Doesn't really matter. So let's go ahead and just set everything up in the main story. Now, main storyboard. But one of the things that I had issues with is that I wanted an application that basically gets called from another application. So I needed to continue to have that Tableview controller, and kind of figuring out I'm completely new to Swift. I'm 3 days old as far as iOS development and Swift goes. So you really have to bear with me, but I just wanted to show you guys what I did, how I learned this very simple task to create this app. So the first thing I did was I got a Tableview controller, and you can either get the Tableview and TableViewCell. I did that. I did it that way as well, but for the application I needed, a table view controller was perfect. I don't need to put anything else on the page. So the first thing I did was I went ahead and took my view, my initial view, added a button, and this could be whatever your user interface is. If it's sign in page or something like that, whatever. So let's say go to table, and this could be login. Like I said, this could be your this can be your sign in page. And let's just put some constraints on this button here. And really it could be to the full screen, but that's silly. So I just add some constraints onto this button, and I probably should have did this when I add the constraints, but let me fix the placement so that way the application doesn't yell at me. Another thing I did was I embedded my view so that way I have some built-in navigation. So added a navigation controller. I think anybody who's watching this probably already knows this amount. Like I said, I'm 3 days old into the situation. This button, only thing it's going to do is going to segue us into here, right? So we just wanted to show us, delete constraints. Okay, we wanted to show us this table view here, right? So this is where we are really trying to make something happen. Let's go to my structure here. Okay, so let's just, what is this asking me about? Add missing constraints, whatever. Okay, so let me just collapse this. We're not going to need that. We're not going to need this. Basically just focusing on this. So the first thing we want to do, well, the first thing I like to do is to create a reuse identifier, generic cell. I mean, it could be anything that suits your purpose, but this is just, we're trying to make it as easy as possible. Now, another thing that I like to do is I like to have different view controllers for each of my storyboards. So I'm going to create a new file, a Cocoa Touch class, and we're going to name it, it's a table view controller. Let's say my table view controller. How about that? My table view controller. Create. Okay, so here we go. Now, it's a bunch of stuff in here that I usually get rid of, and it may be a mistake, but once again, 3 days old. I know that's not an excuse to mess things up, but whatever. So some of this stuff I'm going to keep. I'm going to keep this. I'm going to keep this, right? And I'm going to get rid of all of this stuff. And I think that'll make me happy. Okay, so one of the first things that kind of screams at me is this thing here. I don't like to, if I can help it, paste, maybe I can make it constant. Nope. Okay, var equals cell. This way, if I have to reference it ever again, I can use my variable. If I have to change it, I can just go ahead and change it one place and it trickles down. Trickle down coding. Okay, so we have to implement some of these things. So I'm going to put 1 here because the number of sections is going to be 1. I have to create some type of data just to kind of quickly show you guys what this looks like. Let's say data equals string, a string array, right? And you have to excuse me if I'm not with the syntax, doing the syntax completely right. I'm sure over time I will learn. So let's go ahead and fill this up with some junk data really fast. So 1, and this is 2, and this is 3. Okay, so let me explain what I did here. I'm trying to not make this video really long, but basically I created a table view controller for my table. So it's specifically designed for my table. I'm going to show you guys how I hook that up to it in a moment. I created a reuse identifier for our cell, and I'll show you where that is. That's the cell template or cell prototype for the table. I created some data. This is just the data that's going to show in the table. So I have data and then the numbers. I'm saying I need 1 section. I believe that's what that's about. I have to say how many rows. Right now, we only have 3 items. So what we can do is just call our array and just say how many items are in our array. Right now there's 3. You know, later when we start adding things, there'll be more. What else? Let's go to our main storyboard for a second so I can just show you guys. So this is the prototype cell that we're talking about, that I was talking about actually. What I want to do is add my view controller. So it's not going to be using the same one as this one. It's going to have its very own. So I'm going to go into the code inspector versus identity inspector. If I use my drop down, I have another class of this type that I created, which is my Tableview Controller. So I'm going to use that. Now, let's actually go to my cell. Not my cell. What do I want to do? Yeah, let's go to my table and then go here. Actually, let's do a basic. Right now we're going to just do a basic just to show the most simple way to create a table. Okay, so we're going to go back to my view controller and we are just, cancel. We don't want to delete anything. Okay, let's see. Okay, did it again. Okay, here we go. Cell. So now that part of what we got for free in here is creating this cell. So it's basically giving us the rules that we want. I mean, not the rules that we want, but the syntax that we need in order to create the cell. So cell dot, I think that's maybe dot, nope, dot text label dot text is going to be equal to our data at and this thing here, this index path, is awesome because it's going to be able to just take this and just fill the data in. So let's do that. And then for that row, let's go ahead and populate this data. And I believe that's it. So let's go ahead and try to run and see if I knew what I was doing. We should appear on our main table with, or our main view with our go to table. And there, look, we have a way to delete these buttons. Pretty awesome. That's why I like using the table view, because it just makes it a lot simpler. If I want to delete something, I can, but the problem is that when I start over, of course, it's going to come back. You know, there's no way I didn't actually handle that. So, but I'm going to cut this here. Because I didn't actually handle that correctly, but I'm going to cut this here and come back with the next part. Thanks for watching.